In the last video, I told you about 5 things about anxiety that I now know at 50 that I wish I'd known when I was 20. Well, as you might expect, there are a lot more than just 5 things that I've learned about anxiety in the last 30 years. So yeah, here's 5 more. Welcome back to my channel. Now, if you're watching this video and you haven't seen the previous one, then the good news is you don't have to watch these in any particular order, because what I'm giving you here is a stream of consciousness style list of various things I now know about anxiety that if I'd have known when I was in my early 20s, I really wouldn't have suffered quite so much. There's no particular order, so if you haven't seen the other one, then don't worry. I'll link to it at the end and in the description of this video so you can check it out. But the basic story you need to know here is that whilst what I do now is work one-to-one with clients every day to help them overcome their anxiety issue, before I was doing that, I had my own struggle with anxiety. My issue was social anxiety, and whilst very few people knew about it at the time, it hindered me for many years in my late teens to my late 20s, and even beyond that. Now, whilst hindsight is a wonderful thing, I can't go back in time and tell my younger self the things I now understand about anxiety, but I can tell you. So if you're struggling with anxiety right now, I'm going to now tell you 5 more things that will help you get over your anxiety issues a lot faster. It's really easy to mistake anxiety as a part of us telling us that there's danger on the horizon. I spent a long time making this mistake. I thought my mind was telling me that this is dangerous when it was actually just saying this is important. I'd head into an exam, and because I was anxious, I'd think this meant imminent failure, when it really just meant my mind was getting me ready to do my best. I wish I'd known then that anxiety isn't my mind warning me that something terrible is about to happen. It's my mind saying, this matters. Sometimes the thing our mind is saying matters is about safety, but just as often it's about happiness, connection, purpose, or being accepted. Knowing this would have stopped me interpreting anxiety as a red alert and helped me see it as information and not a suggestion of threat. We often get told that anxiety is just a different type of fear, and I spent years thinking this. I mean, it can feel a lot like fear. It often comes with a lot of the same visceral sensations: racing heart, fast breathing, muscle tension. But fear is an entirely separate emotion. And when anxiety feels physical and intense, it's because we've added fear on top of whatever anxiety we were already feeling. Our mind has interpreted the important thing as also containing some level of threat. Funnily enough, we're perfectly capable of feeling anxious without the intense physical sensations that come with fear. And when we do feel those sensations, it's very probably because we've come to regard anxiety itself as the big threat. And now we're struggling to experience normal, everyday anxiety without the fear sensations coming to the party. That means our body isn't malfunctioning, it's doing exactly what it has evolved to do: go into fight or flight in the face of perceived danger. Understanding this stops us fearing our own physical sensations, and as a result of that, exacerbating and perpetuating them. This leads us neatly onto the real problem when it comes to anxiety issues. Yes, we feel anxious about various aspects of our life, maybe our health, maybe our finances, or in my case, it was the acceptance and potential judgment of others. But in reality, you're probably not here because you're anxious about perfectly understandable life challenges. You're here because you now feel anxiety itself has become the problem you need to deal with. We refer to that as the second fear, the fear about feeling anxious. The moment we start worrying, why do I feel like this? What if this never stops? What if I'm broken? That's when we create the anxiety feedback loop. Our anxiety about anxiety creates more of it. Because as anxious as we might feel about life's challenges, that anxiety won't divert us from the matter at hand unless we decide our response is in some way malfunctioning. It's only then that anxiety reaches the 11 out of 10 heights, simply because we're now creating unnecessary anxiety about how anxious we feel. Even when life doesn't seem manageable, anxiety always is. It's only the fear of anxiety that turns it into a problem. Back in the day, I spent far too much time checking how anxious I was. I got in the habit of self-scanning whenever I was going somewhere. I felt at the time it was vital information that I needed to know. How anxious am I right now? Do I feel better than last time I checked? Do I need to stay in tonight? However, it was that constant monitoring that kept anxiety current and relevant. It was the scanning itself that created a lot of my anxious feelings. Because funnily enough, checking to see if the monster is in is a really anxious thing to do. Ask anyone who's got past their particular anxiety issue what they did to fix things, or when was the exact moment things changed. They'll struggle to tell you. That's because a huge part of their recovery occurred when they just stopped checking to see how anxious they were. That part of the story happened off screen. I wish I'd known back then that when anxiety drops off the list of things worth tracking, it all starts to calm down. Turns out it was only the constant checking that kept it around. I used to believe confidence came before action. I used to think I needed to feel ready, settled, and anxiety-free before I properly re-engaged with the things I wanted to do, or before I engaged with the things I'd never done. My late teens involved a lot of waiting around trying to feel ready to do things. It was only later on that I discovered confidence actually comes after you do things. At some point I realized that if you feel anxious but you do the thing anyway, you discover that anxiety can't actually stop you in your tracks unless you stop to pay attention to it. If you put your life on pause to sort your anxiety out, then your mind will fill that space with anxious thoughts about how long your recovery will take. If you get on and do things, you find out that actually you're much more able to cope than you've given yourself credit. If I'd known that earlier, I'd have stopped waiting for the fear to leave and just started living my life a lot sooner. Looking back, every one of these lessons points to the same truth, a common thread here that ties all of these 5 thoughts and the 5 in the previous video together. Anxiety didn't shrink because I controlled it. It didn't get fixed because I did something directly to fix it. I stopped feeling so anxious because I started to understand it. I started to realize it wasn't a problem that needed solving. It was just an emotion. So I put my focus on understanding myself, why I feel uncomfortable in certain situations. And by understanding this, I also discovered why I didn't need to anymore. I stopped treating anxiety itself as the issue, and as a result, it stopped being one. I really hope you got something from this video. If you haven't seen the previous one, then you can click here to check that one out. Before you go, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who could benefit from hearing these ideas a little earlier than I did. But that's it for now. I'm Tim Box. Always remember, be kind to your mind, and I'll see you next time.